I'm Chris Story, and you're listening to Alaska Matters Radio. A friend of mine sent me this article called Limited Government Solves Constitutional Violations, published on Investors.com, written by Walter E. Williams. Oh, man, if you've never heard Walter Williams host the guest host the Rush Limbaugh show, he's the best. Man, I'm telling you, he is an awesome guy. And he's likening the constitutional violations that we see right now in this country from, well, Obamacare to Second Amendment issues, Fourth Amendment issues, taking of private property and Fifth Amendment violations and more. And he likens it to the breaking of marriage vows and the covenant of marriage, and that the Constitution is to be protected by the government, the very government that is upending the Constitution and running around it. So I like that analogy of it being like a marriage. And he's saying basically at this point, there's enough Americans that oppose each other. In other words, one set or group of Americans wants to restrict you and control you, and the other wants to be left alone. There's enough disparity between the two that right now the only action that can be taken that's peaceable is separation. I don't know. Is he talking about maybe a secession here? I don't think so. He's making a point, though, and it's a good point, and I appreciate that analogy. So he goes on to write here, Article 1, Section 8 of our Constitution lists the activities for which Congress is authorized to tax and spend. Nowhere, he writes, nowhere on that list is there authority for Congress to tax and spend for Medicare, Social Security, public education, farm subsidies, bank and business bailouts, food stamps, and thousands of other activities that account for, get this, roughly 2/3 of the federal budget. Neither is there any authority, Walter Williams goes on to say, for congressional mandates to citizens about what type of health insurance they must purchase, how states and people are to use their land, and at the speed with which you drive, whether a library has wheelchair ramps, and the gallons of water used by your toilet. None of those appear on the constitutionally mandated list for Congress to tax and spend. That's a big deal. Now, this is the line I really want to bring to your attention. These constitutional violations have increased independent of whether there's been a Democrat-controlled Washington or a Republican-controlled Washington. This is right in line with the political theater you and I have been discussing, that neither the left nor the right has any real sense, I think, anymore of what it is that you stand for and what you are about and the Constitution that they are to uphold and protect. John Boehner famously said during one of the many budget debates, I believe it was in 2012, forgive me if it was 2013, pick a year, pick a quarter, pick a month that they're arguing in Washington, D.C. over the budget. And John Boehner famously said, as Speaker of the House, we're going to put some revenues on the table. Like, in other words, don't worry. We're going to put some revenues on the table. And I remember saying, both on my radio program and anybody that would listen in my private life, what do you mean revenues on the table, you pompous, tan... Oh, Chris, calm down. That's the Speaker of the House. He deserves your respect. You know what? No, he does not when he says things like that. Those, sir, Mr. Boehner, those are not revenues you're going to put on the table. Those are tax dollars earned by me and earned by you. So how dare he say, we're going to put some revenues on the table? And that's the only line that I can really parrot of Boehner, Speaker Boehner. But to me, that quantifies everything I need to know about that man. He said it with a little bit of a sheepish smile. In other words, when we get what we want, we're going to put the revenues on the table. We're going to give up. Oh, yeah. See the people behind me that they think I'm protecting, that I'm standing up and defending them as United States citizens? Well, we're gonna fleece them. Yeah, we're gonna reach into their pockets a little deeper. Don't you worry. But first, we want some things. And if I thought those things that he wanted was greater security for the country, like a real border plan, a real securitization of the border and of monetary policy and other things to protect you and I, that I might be willing to say, yeah, he's negotiating in good faith. No, I don't believe that he was negotiating in good faith. Very few Republicans, very few Democrats are really doing anything outside of feathering their own nests and looking out for the status quo. Again, left or right, whoever's controlling Washington, notice we're getting closer and closer to the edge of collectivism. I'm not going to use the word communism or socialism or Marxism. I like collectivism because guess what? That's what it is. You can go right down the middle of the bird and have a left and a right wing. Either one of them seem to be flying this puppy right towards the wall of collectivism. And when you label it anything other than that, you label it communism, you label it Marxism and so forth, people start to, even socialism, they start to grimace and go, oh, I've figured you out. Yeah, I know what you're about. And I'm saying, no, it's about collectivism. And it's about, Walter Williams has got another line here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here we go. The list of congressional violations of both the letter and spirit of the Constitution is virtually without end. Letter and spirit of the Constitution. Well, enter loophole. The word loophole, by definition. A loophole is an ambiguity in a system such as a law or security, which can be used to circumvent or otherwise avoid the intent implied or explicitly stated of the system. It's a way around to circumvent the intent or the explicit desire of the law or security or the system. And so you can look locally. Let's look locally here to Little Homer, Alaska. The city manager said that the finance director had found a loophole whereby apartment units could be assessed a fee on a monthly basis for water and sewer of $45 per month. This would add to the city coffers. Now, rather than actually take a hard look at what we need to have as a water and sewerage rate, they looked for a loophole, which means they're obviating the intent of the user fee. So you have one meter, one bill, one customer, one user fee, $45 per month. Well, let's say you have a 10-unit apartment building. You were paying last month $45 per month, and then you were buying your water by the gallon and paying for the sewer by the gallon of water used. Now they've jumped through a loophole, and you're paying $450 whether you use a gallon of water or not. You could use not a single drop of water. You're still going to pay $450 a month, plus then your usage like you normally would have, and without reason. And they literally came out and called it a loophole. So you can talk about these things on a local and national basis. It all means the same thing. Collectivism has got to be stamped out. You've got to take action, stand up, step up, speak up, and don't ever let go of your rights, your God-given rights, endowed by your Creator and protected by the rule of law and fundamentally the Constitution of the United States of America. I'm Chris Story, wishing you a great day in the great land.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. Gonna stand my ground. I won't be turned around. And I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground.